another up close video. Today's one is for Tonic Stamp Club number 29, which is called A Bug Deal. And as you can tell from the title of it, it's got some really cute punny bug kind of sentiments in there, and it's full of all sorts of different bugs as well. Some really cute little ones like the little firefly, which could definitely be a wasp or a bee as well. You could colour it to be any of them. I did actually kind of colour my fireflies and they almost look like bees or something. Anyway, you've got a butterfly, caterpillar, snail, two different ladybirds, a spider, and then you've also got extra little elements to kind of like build scenes and stuff as well. And then you have coordinating dies for almost every stamp. There's a couple of like textury sort of stamps or like little grassy ones that don't have a die to go with them, but they have also included the extra dies in there as well, like they often like to do, and the extra ones are really good. So let's have a look at the stamp set. I just zoom you in a little bit, we can go through. So this is the little firefly that you can see. It could just be like a chubby bee or a wasp or something as well. You've got this gorgeous little flower. It's like a little tulip kind of flower that could really be leaning off that direction, or it could be, you know, curving around. Maybe you want lots of them and you do like a little wreath with them. So a cute little flower that you can build up scenes and stuff with. Maybe you have the, maybe you could do something funny with the caterpillar going over the flower, and that's why it's leaning over, because the caterpillar's really heavy, or same idea with the ladybird or something. You've got a gorgeous little butterfly. I'll hold it up even closer for you. And it's even got a tiny little face on it as well. It's really, really sweet. And I love the dots on the antennae of all of the creatures or bugs. They've put these little dots on there. So you could put a Nuvo drop in there if you wanted to. Or you can just tie a colour in to their antennae as well. You've got the gorgeous little caterpillar with his little goofy teeth, and he's got a little chubby cheek full of food as well, because there's actually a leaf with a bite missing, so it looks like he's been eating the leaf. You've got a gorgeous snail, really gorgeous snail with a lovely swirly shell. Again, cute little face and those little dots on the end of the antennae too. You've got a cloud, so you can build a lovely scene and have a few clouds. Across the sky you can do some blue and green ink blending and just make it really simple. A few clouds and then add the little characters towards the bottom, and it makes a really lovely scene. You've got a lovely little heart which works brilliantly for all sorts of different ideas. You can have the snail holding the heart, you can have the caterpillar holding the heart, the butterfly holding the heart. It goes along with like the bugs and kisses sentiment in there as well. You have got a lovely little spider. I don't like spiders, so I didn't actually use the spider, but he does look quite cute compared to a real spider. And he's on a little bit of webbing as well. So you could do all sorts of like Incy Wincy Spider, or that... was it? I don't know if it was a TV show, but I had it on VHS, the little spider in the bath and stuff, and he'd jump on the toothpaste and things. You could do something like that with it. You've got two different ladybirds. You've got one sort of like sitting down, maybe she's sort of having a rest, or she's just landed and she's going to eat something. And then you've got this one that looks more like he's in flight, so the wings are slightly open a little bit more and you can see his body in there. And again, they've got those little dots on their antennae too. You've got a couple of pieces of grass, so this one can be grass, or it can also be the stem for this flower. And then you've got a tiny little tuft of grass as well, again for building those kind of scenes. You can add that across the bottom to ground any of your little elements that you want to, or you can have the caterpillar has just been eating that little tuft of grass too. You've got the leaf with a bite taken out of it, which goes perfectly with the caterpillar, or the ladybird could have just landed on there as well. Lots of different ways of using the leaf, and you could add the leaf as just like a standalone element. You could combine it with this portion. You can have it poking out of the edge of the flower and have the caterpillar maybe if you put the leaf this side, have the caterpillar resting on the flower but eating the leaf of it as well. Then you've got a small little flower, which is gorgeous. Lovely little 5-pointed cloudy kind of flower with the centre. And then a gorgeous big flower that any of the bugs can kind of be landing on. So again, that the ladybird could be sitting on there. You could have the butterfly looking at it as if it's just sort of like flying off from the flower. You could maybe take the spider off of its web and have that sitting on the flower as well. Or again, the caterpillar would work really nicely too. And you also actually have a length of grass along the bottom as well. So again, for like grounding your images, if you don't want to draw a piece of grass, you can actually just use the stamp too, which is nice. And then for like extra adding like a trail from the firefly, or just sort of adding something extra into the background without having to make it too detailed, you've got these two lovely dotty kind of ones, and they're really handy, these kind of dotty ones. I feel like they're the perfect little stamp to have just to fill in any little bit of white space. If you go with that marble statue ink from Tonic and Nuvo, it's a really light grey, and it just adds like a subtle little bit of interest in the background. I'll show you that on one of the cards when we get to it as well. But really, really lovely to use those two, just to add those little extra details. So those are all of the stamps, or the main image stamps. And then we've also got the kind of punny sort of sentiments, or sentiments that relate to the characters. So you've got "You Make My Heart Flutter," you've got "Hey Little Bug," "Enjoy the Little Things in Life," which goes really well with one of the standalone dies. We've got "Bugs and Kisses," "Today is a Very Bug Deal," and then we also have "Sorry for Always Bugging You." I like that one. I think that's a really good one. I don't think I've ever seen that kind of sentiment before, so I think "Sorry for Always Bugging You" is a really good one. And then we have got all of the coordinating dies. So I'll zoom back out so you can see the whole set, and we'll go through and I'll show you all of the dies that we have that coordinate with the images. So we've got the spider one, and again, if you did want to just use the spider individually, the only thing that's attaching it to the web is just one little strand, so you can definitely use the spider individually and just cut across that one little bit to complete the white bubble around the edge of it as well. And with all of the stamp clubs, they're really clever the way they do their dies, because if I hold this up, you can see if you place that over the die, or over the stamp even, you can see all of the feet through it. So you can line it up perfectly, so you can stamp, colour and then die cut. It's so difficult to do in midair, but you can stamp, colour and then die cut and get it perfectly positioned, so it's going to cut out absolutely perfectly, because I've left the space in the metal so you can do that. So that is the spider. Then we also have the snail. And again, it cuts out the antennae too. There is a slight area of white left in there, but it does cut out that one antennae really nicely on the outside edge. You kind of want that to be solid so it's stronger, because they're very sort of delicate little antennae. But you've got that one. You have got the caterpillar. Again, it cuts out those little antennae as well. You have got the butterfly. You've got the half-eaten leaf. You've got the flower as well, that big large flower down there. You've got the coordinating die for that. I'm just going to get a magnet because it's much easier to pick them up with a magnet. You've got the one that cuts out that sort of like triple tuft of grass, or the stem for the flower. You've got one that cuts out the cloud, so you can just use the cloud individually as well. You don't have to have the stamped image to go with the cloud. You have also got this sort of like tulipy flower, you have got the firefly, you've got the sitting down ladybird, the in-flight ladybird, the little flower, and then you also have the heart as well. So and you also actually do have the grass. So I didn't actually try this out, but I think this actually lines up with the stamp to cut the grass out for you. I think it does. I haven't actually tried that, but I think it is. Yes, you can still see the stamped line as well, so they've done that really nicely for you too. So you can stamp the grass, colour it and then cut it out as well, which is very handy, because that would be awful to fussy cut along that grass. So the only stamps you don't have dies for are the sentiments, the little tiny tuft of grass, which you would want to kind of stamp into the design anyway, you wouldn't really want to cut it out. And then you've also got those two dotty ones there, they don't have a die to cut them out. Then the extra dies that we have, you can see we've got some gorgeous extra dies left over. This is my absolute favourite. This is a magnifying glass. So you have the piece that cuts the outside of the magnifying glass, and then you also have the circle to cut the frame in the centre of it. And you can do all sorts of different ideas with this. Shaker cards, you know, like layering up this piece upwards or recessing it back downwards. You can add acetate over the top to make it look like a real magnifying glass. You could just make them as fun little like party elements or something as well, just like little fake magnifying glasses. So you've got that extra die. You've got this little trail with stitching on it, so this can be for any of those bugs, any of the ones in flight. You can have the little trail going behind them. Really lovely extra element. This kind of thing also looks lovely cut from vellum, because it's really soft and subtle kind of looking. You have got a little branch, which is perfect for the caterpillar. He can be walking along the little branch, or any of the other little bugs that you want to sort of land on something. You've got the little branch there. you've got a little sort of selection of leaves, which actually kind of remind me of a Venus flytrap. I think it's that little line that's in the leaf and the shape of them. So if you were clever with your colouring, you could possibly even make them look a little bit like a Venus flytrap plant as well. But also just brilliant for sort of bulking out the background without having to stamp and colour things. You could just cut them out of coloured card, or you can colour them with the same colours of pens that you're colouring your images with as well. So a lovely little sort of flourish of foliage. And then the die that I've kind of based my tutorial around, which will be tomorrow's video, is a jar. So you've got a beautiful jar, and this piece on the inside, which actually turns it into like more of like a shaker jar, is just a really gorgeous shape by itself. I've got some of the leftover ones here. It's just a really lovely like rounded rectangle kind of shape that you can use on your cards as well. Maybe even to bring the focus of your scene. Maybe you could have the flower in that corner with the caterpillar on there and the leaf poking out of it. It's just a nice little way to ground all of your little elements as well. Really lovely shape for that. But it also goes along with this to be able to turn it into a frame to create a shaker with this jar, or you can use it as like a label on the front of the jar, whatever you kind of want to. And then you also have the lid for the jar as well, which even has like the ellipsis that gives you an embossed effect on it. So you've got the perspective of the top of the jar as well, and that just goes on top of there like that. So I'll put all these dies away so I don't lose them, and then I'll come back and show you the 6 samples that I have created with this set as well. Okay, so these are the 6 cards that I've created. Some of them are really simple, some of them are sort of in the middle of simple, and some of them are complicated or like more jam-packed full of things basically. But the first one, I wanted to go with that bugs and kisses, and I thought we'll just keep it really simple and just go with some ladybirds as the bugs on there. So I've just done 3 of the in-flight ones and 2 of the sitting ones, and I've done 1 sitting one at the bottom, and then I've done 1 sitting one going round the circle. This is one of Tonic's cross-stitch circles from a few years ago. If I ever cut out apertures and things, I keep these off to the side, and this was just one of the ones in my pot, so I thought it would work really, really nicely. I've just done a little bit of tumbled glass and broken china distress oxides in the background, done some on the background and some on the main circle, and then I've just splattered with the Aqua Shimmer glitter gloss on there as well to give a little bit of sparkle, and then I've literally just coloured the ladybirds in with red and black alcohol pens. So really, really simple, that one. And for the sentiment, stamped it in black and then did a scribbly border using a fine black pen like I always like to do, and then trimming round with my scissors as well. The next one is more of a jam-packed kind of card, so I was really trying to create a scene with this one. So again, I've gone with the tumbled glass broken china at the top, and then the bottom I did twisted citron and a little bit of the rustic wilderness to deepen it up a little bit as well. So it gives that sort of blur from blue to green, so you've kind of got all of the greenery down the bottom here. And then in the sky I've put 5 of the little clouds that you can stamp and cut out. I've got a few of the little hearts to sort of tie the red across the card because I put red in the butterfly. Look how cute that butterfly looks. He's got such a gorgeous little face. And I did the butterfly yellow and red because then the yellow kind of mimics the centres of the flowers as well. And then I've also got the snail poking in from the side too, and I did his antennae yellow to kind of match in as well. And then I've done bright pink flowers so they really sort of pop in the centre. And I could have had a bug landing in the flower as well, but I really liked the openness of that flower, so I just kind of left it as it was. And then I've also got the sort of smaller flower off to the side as well. I've brought in a couple of pieces of this, you know, that triple sort of foliage piece, and then some of the die cut ones as well. I've got 3 die cut ones. I put one down in the background there, one over here in the background, and then some of the small elements I put in the foreground there as well. And I've just finished it off with 3 little maroon flowers. So I tried to keep with a simple kind of colour scheme, and picked out like, well, flower centres are always going to be a yellowy kind of colour, so I put the yellow in the butterfly. I know I wanted hearts on there because the sentiment is you make my heart flutter, so I needed the hearts, and then I knew hearts would usually be red because I wanted the flowers to be pink, so I didn't want to do the hearts pink as well. So I've kind of like tried to tie in all of the colours like that, so it gives more of like a cohesive kind of look on there. So that is the second card. The third card I think is one of my favourites, although the tutorial card that I just made in the tutorial video is probably my actual favourite. But this one is using the caterpillars, and I wanted to do bright, vibrant caterpillars. I can't remember what these ones were called. I think it was owl something. But I just googled bright coloured caterpillar, and it came up with the green ones with the orange and black in little bands on them. And I didn't quite like the way I'd coloured them because it's a cartoon caterpillar. I'd kind of tried to colour them looking like a realistic caterpillar, so it wasn't really quite working. So I thought, well, I'm just going to bung some glue on there and put some glitter on and see what happens. And I really like it with the glitter. So that glitter was the Enchanted Eden. I have a feeling that might have been an exclusive to a kit, I can't remember, but that was the colour that I decided to go with the colour scheme that I had chosen. But any sort of green glitter or even a clear glitter would look nice because the green would show through then as well. And I've just added 3 little branches, 3 of the leaves with the bites taken out of them. I put 2 here, 1 down here, and then 3 of the caterpillars as well. And I just coloured them all the same, but put them maybe slightly different angles when I added them onto the card. And for the sentiment, I stamped the "sorry for always bugging you" because I really like that sentiment. And then I just drew myself a sort of wooden kind of frame to go around it because I knew the branches were going to be wooden, so I just drew a scribbly wooden kind of frame to go around the edge of it and coloured it with the same brown inks. And then for the background of this one, I think I just swiped the ink pads across the background. I think I started ink blending and I didn't like how subtle it was, so I just swiped the Twisted Citron and a little bit of the Rustic Wilderness across the background, and then I came back in with the dried oregano, is that what it's called? Yeah, dried oregano little ink pad from Nuvo and stamped those dots in a few places on there. And then I also splattered some of the Rustic Wilderness Oxide on there as well to give that kind of a background. So you can go for a really simple abstract kind of background and then just have the elements in the foreground, because this could be like a bush that they're all sitting in, and you just see the 3 caterpillars in there. So that's that one. Next one is very simple as well. In the tutorial video I was saying I did a card with lots of magnifying glasses on, and I was thinking originally I could have done this as a multiple aperture shaker card, but I wanted some of them hanging off, and it's very difficult to do shaker cards when elements are hanging off the edge of the card. So I decided to just leave it as magnifying glasses in the background and then just put 1 butterfly on there, and then it's got "Today is a very bug deal." And then in the background you can see that spotty stamp again, but stamped with the marble statue, so it's really subtle. And I've put Aqua Shimmer around the edge of the magnifying glass to make it look a little bit metallic-y, because it's usually metal, the rim of a magnifying glass. So that's a really, really simple one. And then an even simpler one, I had 1 snail left over that I coloured because it didn't work with that, which card would it not work with? Oh, I changed my idea for the bug card and I didn't end up using the snail that I had coloured. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to use that snail, and I love the "hey little bug" sentiment as well. And to make it look a little bit, to give it somewhere to sort of like sit, I thought, well, the cloud die is a bit too small to go behind it, but that flower die looks like a cloud. You know, if it's not cutting out the flower, it just looks like another puffy cloud kind of shape. So in my tutorial video, not the last one, the one before, for a showcase, I did showing you how to deboss your dies. So this is debossing that flower die with the grey board method. So not with the green squishy mat, you use a piece of grey board and then you get a subtler debossed impression that doesn't wrinkle the rest of the cardstock because there's not too much pressure on it. So it just gave a subtle shape behind the snail, and then I've also used the marble statue to stamp some of those dots on there as well, and then I just put the "hey little bug" on there. And then the final card is the one that is in tomorrow's tutorial video. So this is quite an in-depth or like involved kind of card, making this whole shaker element, because I've done shaker card tutorials before, but I wanted to show something a little bit different. So this is actually a shaker card with suspended elements, and they are supposed to move, but I think they've got a little bit stuck on each other. But they're on invisible thread in there, so they can wiggle around whilst the other elements are shaking around them. The little bugs can actually wiggle in there as well, or if they do get stuck and they don't wiggle, they're just being held in the right kind of position rather than shaking around all over the place, going upside down and all getting stuck at the bottom or something. they're laid out nicely in the card. I had one magnifying glass left over from preparing for this card, so I put some acetate over the top of that and then added that over the top of the firefly that's escaping from the jar, and we've decided to put the jar lid down here, and then I've done enjoy the little things in life as the sentiment on there as well. And you can see in depth exactly the thought process behind this, all of the kind of elements that you need and how to put this together are in tomorrow's tutorial video as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this up close video looking at Tonic Stamp Club number 29, which is called A Bug Deal. I think it's a really lovely cheerful stamp set, and it can make really gorgeous spring summery kind of cards as well, because all of the bugs are coming out in the garden now. I keep seeing lovely fat bumblebees flying around the garden, and there's a lot of wood lice and slugs and things as well. But yeah, it's a really lovely set of stamps with the coordinating dies to go with them, and I love that you get those extra dies as well that allows you to create like a shaker card like this, or the gorgeous magnifying glass as well. I love that, and the little trail that you get too. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.